Found out the baby wasn't mine after DNA test. Should I still get married? Story 1. TX, signed acknowledgement of paternity, baby born 2 weeks ago, paternity test shows it's not mine. A little background, I am married, and my wife became pregnant, and I cared for her during the pregnancy. I was also at her side for the birth. She's a doctor, and she speaks a lot about her male nursing assistant, who tells her bizarre things. He's told stories about how he's impregnated married women and dodged accountability. I never thought much more than, wow, he sounds like an, and just trusted my wife completely. So, I noticed she was acting odd about her phone in the last several months, and I haven't really been allowed to touch it. Our life wasn't exactly thriving when she became pregnant, so although it's possible I got her pregnant, absolutely conceivable, I believed it was unlikely given the strange phone things. One of the nights, I took a DNA sample from the infant. I used a well-known mail-in test and submitted 2 different samples to ensure no mistakes could be made since I don't want to jeopardize my marriage. Both returned as the kid not being mine. Some ideas that I believe will be beneficial to me. The adultery is all too obvious. Her mother is now residing with us. Her mother is adamantly anti-cheating and adores me. She is a doctor in the region and is quite concerned about her reputation. She is also active in the church. She has no clue, as far as I can tell. I concealed the test kits in my work bag, which she never checks, and I've been keeping an eye on it. I sent them while out shopping and obtained the findings online. I still have the element of surprise on my side in this situation. My inquiries are as follows. I saw that I have 60 days to cancel the opus. If I retract this, and the divorce goes well, and I'm able to identify the true father, who I believe is the nurse, although I might be mistaken. He's the only male she appears to have a lot of exposure to and meets the criteria. Are I still at danger of having to pay child support for an 18-year-old kid who isn't mine? I assume she will want to avoid having to pay child support to me. She's a self-sufficient woman who says, I don't need no guy. But I may be mistaken since I definitely don't know her as well as I believed. We earn about the same amount of money. I own a property with 20% equity that I acquired before the marriage and ran out. In preparation for the baby, we acquired a new house jointly. I am divorced, and in my last divorce, my ex made off like a bandit, despite the fact that there was no adultery and she earned substantially less than me. Could her easy-to-prove adultery help me get a better divorce settlement? How can I tell whether a family lawyer is competent? It's exhausting to look for one. It's difficult to tell since everyone I've spoken with on the phone is rough around the edges and unpleasant. I don't mind having a tough lawyer, but I also don't want someone who intimidates me. Update 1. She recently had a baby. It was 2 weeks ago. My wife began acting strangely with her phone in the middle of her pregnancy, and she's told me about a colleague who boasts about sleeping with a slew of people, including married women, and even boasts about fathering a kid and another guy accidentally raising it. I believe he's a jerk, but I assumed my wife was telling me this to emphasize how bad he is. He's the only male she spends any time with except me, and he has a history of doing so I'm presuming the baby is his, but I may be mistaken. I don't really care who it is at this time. I am simply sure it's not mine. Anyway, that's how I know. I purchased 2 well-known paternity tests in the weeks leading up to the baby's birth and kept them carefully hidden. I administered them and mailed them in, and both I used simply to eliminate the possibility of a fake positive or negative or anything like that. Paranoid showed that the kid was not mine. I'm trying my best to put up a nice show and seem to be the dedicated parent, husband she believes I am. But I'm disgusted and bitter. I have a great desire to get ahead of this since I have already been divorced and also cheated on in that marriage. Amazing. I'm kind of numb to it now, and the ex-wife told everyone that I cheated on her and that she was the victim, and it turned into a huge mess where most people still don't believe me. And she told everyone that the screenshots I have proving it were photoshopped/generated, and she generated her own as well to make it look like I was some woman who doesn't exist. It's because I believed she was a wonderful person and gave her the benefit of the doubt. Instead, she became unhappy that she had been discovered and instantly informed everyone that I had cheated instead of her, and it became her word against mine. I don't believe it will happen here since there's a kid to establish the adultery, but I'm still wary. Given the severe scenario in which I've been misled for over a year, would it be fair for me to summon both of our families and closest friends and face her with witnesses, paternity testing, divorce papers, and a packed bag? I simply want to make sure that nothing is miscommunicated to anybody. To be quite honest, I don't care whether the attendees think I'm being immature or petty. Miscommunication has already harmed my reputation, and many people I considered close friends believe I cheated on my ex when she cheated on me and would never speak to me again. Her family is nearby, so I believe she will be able to remain with them after the event. But at this point, I've had my image wrongly destroyed once in my life by a very evil individual. I don't want that to happen again, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't think her actions should be branded. Edit, I see what you mean. I'm too enraged to think clearly. More than half of those who have commented believe this is trivial, which is why I asked, and I'm going to side with those who aren't emotional wrecks right now. I intend to go with the party as usual, and as soon as the last person departs, I will pack a bag for her and the baby, as well as supply her with a printed copy of the paternity test and divorce papers. I do intend to SMS everyone who attended what happened as they left the following day, along with a photo of the paternity test. Regardless matter what Reddit thinks, I'm performing this part 100%. The family reunion is already planned at this time. I stupidly suggested this during an emotional bout. Sorry to miscommunicate that. I'll put up with it to avoid alerting her to the fact that I'm aware of it. I still want to maintain the element of surprise. I believe the wording will simply state, "It kills me to have to explain this to everyone," she says to her family and friends. I saw strange conduct in wife and began to have questions about the child's paternity. I conducted 2 paternity tests on kid, both of which revealed that she is not my child. I am really sorry to be the bearer of the news that our family will no longer exist. I wish you all the best and hope that you will support her and the kid, since the child has nothing to do with her actions. It kills me to have to explain this to everyone, I say to my family and friends. I saw strange conduct in wife and began to have questions about the child's paternity. I conducted 2 paternity tests on kid, both of which revealed that she is not my child. I am really sorry to be the bearer of the news that our family will no longer exist. I'm okay. According to my family and friends, I simply need some time to recover, and I believe that going through the divorce will be the first step. Update 2. The unabridged version is as follows. My wife and I had a kid a few weeks ago. Prior to this, I saw suspicious conduct that was triggering in my wife as a result of my former marriage. She kept her phone away from me at all times. I understand that some people think presuming someone is cheating based on that, as per the comments on the Raw article, to be insecure and absurd. But I am now 2 for 2 on getting strange with the phone, which means my spouse is attempting to conceal something from me. The irony of this conduct is that I do it, not Snoop. If they simply played it cool and gave me the phone when I asked if I could check something up or use Google Maps for example, when my phone is dead, I'd never know they're cheating. It's their actions around the gadget and attempts to conceal things that give them away. I am uninterested in my wife's text messages, emails, phone history, and so on. I essentially stewed on these feelings for over a year before purchasing a couple of paternity tests and running them after the baby was born. I received the findings shortly, and both showed that I am not the father. I actually spent the whole time praying that I'm crazy, jealous, insecure. Issues that can be fixed with treatment. I've never wished to be incorrect more in my life. It's devastating to seek counsel and have others dismiss my condition as fictitious. I really wanted to be a parent. When I initially heard about the baby, I was overjoyed. I'm in my late 42nd and I'm at the stage where I simply want to give up on having a family. But I'm not asking for advice here, I'm searching for support. I'm feeling fairly adrift now that I've been cheated on in both of my marriages. I'm far from perfect, and I do have some flaws. I don't believe they'll ever be large enough to justify cheating. I communicate when I have an issue, which occasionally leads to fights, but I have learned to communicate effectively over time. I try not to be the jealous kind, and I don't limit my partners in any way. Me being jealous and controlling isn't going to stop a cheater from cheating. I tell everyone I've dated or married. If the individual cheats, I'll most likely find out and deal with it then. Having said that, it's difficult not to acquire some trust concerns following this. Story 2. Rant. I am a husk of a human being since I found out about the infidelity. A year ago, I discovered that my girlfriend of 5 years, whom I believed would be my wife and whom I adored, had been cheating on me. I acquired the evidence entirely by chance. That day, the chaos and unpredictability of the cosmos worked in my favor, if only for a little period. But once I saw it, it was unmistakable what had been going on. For months, she had been cheating on me with different guys, and this is exactly what I had unequivocal confirmation of. There was undoubtedly more than I will ever know. That was a day I'll never forget. I'll never forget how I felt. As I received message after message, the blood in my body became ice cold, each one confirming that my whole world was going to come tumbling down around me. In my mind, my whole view on my relationship started to twist. What I had previously thought did not match what I was now witnessing. It seemed as though reality itself was collapsing. That day, a part of me perished and will never return. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a terrible thing. I suppose only time will tell. After a few hours, I gathered my courage and resolved to face her. Before I played my hand, I offered her one final unprompted opportunity to confess the truth. I was anxious not to have to do that. Even after reading and seeing everything, things that shattered my whole self-esteem in a matter of minutes, I still wanted to think she would at the very least come clean about it all without me presenting her evidence. I now realized that I was utterly insane at the time. How could I expect someone as deceitful, greedy, cowardly, and dishonest as her to tell me the truth? She'd previously shown that she was who she claimed to be. She was the first person to whom I ever really opened myself, both physically and emotionally. I was absolutely innocent and had a blind optimism and trusting attitude that she effectively abused and has since vanished. I sat her down gently but firmly and asked her if she had anything she needed to tell me. She declined. I inquired if she had ever cheated on me throughout our relationship. She declined. I asked if there was anything she had lied to me about, and if so, to please come clean about it. She said that there was nothing. She pretended to be perplexed that I would even pose these questions, as if there were no legitimate reason for me to question them at all. As she answered each question, I could feel the color drain from my face. I could really feel myself becoming pale. With each response, I realized the person in front of me was someone I had never met before. Finally, the excessively idealized image of her in my imagination was detached from her genuine person. I simply sat there in quiet for a few moments, trying to figure out what was going on and how I was going to continue. I asked her one more pointless inquiry: is there anything more you want to tell me? Anything? Are you certain there isn't anything? No. What is the source of this? Is there a problem? She responded. I was crushed and in a state of shock. She made me play my hand, so I just took a big breath and started reading her letters to each of her guy toys aloud. Even when I read them aloud and glanced over to her for her reaction, she seemed perplexed as to why I was reading them at all and pretended as if nothing was wrong. As if these communications didn't imply anything unusual at all. It was just a routine discussion amongst friends, which was weird to me since I don't recall having any buddies with whom I discussed meeting up for, snuggling, or kissing. Call me crazy, but I don't send nude images of myself to my friends, and they don't send me naked pictures of themselves. The more she pretended to be stupid as I read them, the more enraged I became. My head felt like it was ready to burst. On the exterior, I kept my cool, but on the inside, I was on the edge of going insane. I didn't fall for her deception methods. No, not this time. I knew I had all of the cards. I went through each message, explaining to her, like you would to a kid, what each message meant, why it was bad, and why it suggested she was cheating on me after reading them all out maybe 3 times without her even admitting she had done anything wrong. She was a wise young lady who didn't need me to explain why sending a message indicating plainly that she was going to meet up with someone for was considered cheating. Even still, she would debate with me about each message, striving to downplay its ramifications to the greatest extent possible. She lied, denied, and reduced everything she could. Finally, as I constantly put out my case with each communication, like a lawyer would in court, she realized I wasn't falling for her deceptive techniques. She sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. She was doomed. She said that she felt terrible and guilty about it. She was in such a bad mood. What a helpless victim of this terrible world she was. She said she merely did it to increase her self-esteem. It's not what it seems to be, she said. She had been thinking about informing me for days but didn't want to harm me, so she chose to carry the load as punishment and never tell me. But she also told me she was going to inform me in a few days. Neither example made sense, considering that this was not something that happened in the distant past. It was continually happening, and she denied everything until I physically forced her to admit. Even yet, she reduced as much as she could while admitting. She'd been texting one of her guy toys only 2 days before, while we were both sleeping in the same bed. She said she was only doing it because she suspected I was cheating on her and that she would stop when I did. I asked her what made her believe I was cheating on her and if she had any evidence. Crickets. I was not, have never been, and will never be a cheater. She flung every explanation she could think of in the hopes that one would stick and I'd believe it. She blurted out so many words in her crocodile tears that half of them contradicted one another. I had the impression that I was seeing the unraveling of a whole individual in front of me. A ball of falsehoods packed tightly together, ultimately unraveled by a slack thread. It seemed like I wasn't even looking at a human person anymore, but at some nasty beast trying, but failing, to resemble one. I really considered if she had a personality issue or was a psychopath/sociopath to some extent. It was very strange and distressing to see her unraveling. Throughout our relationship, she did a slew of other heinous things to me. I was young, inexperienced, and caring. Someone like that would be the ideal target for someone like that. I treated her like gold as she emotionally tormented me and love-bombed me until I forgave her. Then do something much worse. Then she will love-bomb me until I forgive her. Then do something much worse. And the cycle would continue, until she finally abused me horribly without remorse, ending in her ultimate betrayal. The only reason she tried to demonstrate, fake regret was because I'd had enough of her and her unethical actions. I called it quits. To make matters worse, she informed her family, whom I loved as if they were my own, and for whom I did so much that it would be too long to list in this essay, that I was the one who cheated on her. She had a younger cousin who lived with her family and with whom she was close. I treated her as if she were my own flesh and blood, and I sincerely loved her as if she were my little sister. She is just a kid, so I certainly don't hold anything against her, but when my ex and I split up, she messaged me and sent me really terrible things because she claimed that I was the one who cheated on her. It devastated my already wounded heart. This tiny ball of innocence, whom I loved and cared for, turned against me in the most heinous manner conceivable due to a total misunderstanding of the facts. And I was well aware that she had probably turned the rest of her family against me as well. I wanted to respond back and defend myself, saying that it was her who cheated, but I was so exhausted that I just banned my ex and her whole family on everything and went no contact. I realized it was pointless to attempt to argue with her family members about what had transpired. And I wasn't going to show a kid the filthy things my ex wrote to her APs in order to clear my name in her eyes. I haven't felt human since that day. I'm just in my late 20s, yet I feel like I've been alive for 1,000 years. Every day is a recitation of the same routine. I go about like a zombie, taking care of the tasks that I must like job, but on the inside I am in full pain. I can't recall the last time I awoke with anything other than unpleasant feelings. My self-esteem is close to none. On most days, I actually despise myself. I'm no longer interested in anything. My previous goals and ambitions have all but evaporated. I'm scarcely able to drag myself out of bed. I'm filled with rage like I've never felt before, always bubbling under the surface. My existence is being boiled away. I'm in the worst depression I've ever experienced. I'm plagued with vengeful ideas that I hesitate to act on. I'm having disturbing ideas of committing violent things to myself. I have no desire to do anything violent to myself. I am not suicidal or anything like that, but these movies of me doing something like that play in my brain. I'm not sure how to put that into words. I just have a mental image of myself doing something like that, and I have no desire to really do it. I merely watch it happen, if that makes sense. Almost everything is a direct effect of my connection with my ex. I'm not here to give you advice. Despite her several efforts to win me back and demonstrate how much she really loves me, I have no communication with my ex. I go to the gym and keep myself in good condition. I have many wonderful friends with whom I spend my time, as well as a wonderful family of my own. I don't want to burden them with my suffering. I do my best to put on a brave front while suffering alone. I have a lot of interests as well as a terrific job. But when the hustle ceases, ideas fill my mind like a tsunami. The negativity hangs on me like an anvil around my neck. Edit. To clarify for some, my ex and her family have no contact with anybody in my life. So she isn't going around telling everyone I know that I'm the terrible person. She simply informed her family. Obviously, it still stings after all I've done for them and the love I and her family had, but it has no bearing on my present life/relationships. Everyone who knows me is aware of what occurred. I'm not even sure why I wrote this post. I think I'm simply venting/ranting. It might be tough to keep everything to myself at times. Reading this may help someone who is cheated or is considering cheating appreciate the significance of their acts, if they ever thought such a selfish, cowardly, and despicable thing in the first place. Perhaps one of you has had a similar situation, and we might feel better together as a result of our shared experiences. It's comforting to know that we're not alone in our suffering. That is a natural element of being human. I apologize for the length, and I don't want to dampen anyone's spirits. I wish you joy and happiness in your life. Be considerate. Be considerate. Be truthful. Be a person of character. Send forth love, laughter, and smiles, not sorrow, suffering, or pain. Treat people in the same way that you would want to be treated, something we are all taught from an early age, yet many do not seem to understand.